Can we redo that bit? Guys, can we do that bit again? Or do I have to live with what I just said? Let's talk about Lords of the Fallen, guys. Let's talk about Lords of the Fallen. I probably have nearly 30 hours on this game across, I would say, across PS5 and PC. I've played it on both platforms. So I haven't finished the game. I've probably gotten about a third of the way through the game. I've got 4 remembrances. So I'm not an expert on the game. And I probably will end up doing another little review, thoughts, summarizing my overall experiences with the game. But I think for now, I just want to, I guess, capitalize on the interest of this game and try to get some of my own thoughts out there about how this game could become really, really good overall. I think it's excellent in some areas. Let's just say it's amazing in the visual department. All that stuff is fantastic. The art direction, the combat is competent, but there's just other areas where it is just altogether rather average, and as a result, it brings down the whole package. So let's talk about it. So what I would say the inherent fixable issues with Lords of the Fallen, all right? Well, I think it's fair to say that Lords of the Fallen has some fundamental contradicting issues in its design, right? So the Umbral Realm is kind of this flagship feature of the game. However, I think due to competing interests in enemy design as well as the character's movement speed, the Umbral Realm never really just realizes its full potential. This Umbral Realm is meant to be a vehicle for added exploration and puzzles. It's really good to look at. It's good to gawk at. Sadly, it features these respawning enemies and what amounts to basically what you could call an enraged timer. It confuses me why an effective limit was placed on the player's time in this space. I don't get it. Now, why invest art, environment, level design in creating spaces amenable to 2 layers only to curtail the player's ability to fully explore those spaces and satisfactorily explore those spaces? It's fascinating, right? Frustrating and futile all at the same time to know that if you stick around long enough in the Umbral Realm, eventually Ronald McDonald is just going to enter your game and kill you straight away. So what's a gamer to do? What is a gamer to do, guys? Well, thankfully, right, you'll be pleased to know that in Lords of the Fallen, your character is actually Usain Bolt. Your character can move so fast, the whole world is literally this guy's treadmill. If you grow tired of clearing spaces, densely packed with enemies, just run past everything. It's fine. It's also mind-boggling at the same time. HEXWORKS have worked so hard to show what they've built with UE5, but they've also disincentivized exploring those spaces by turning every leg of this game into the Corvian settlement from Dark Souls 3 in terms of enemy density, and even more so in terms of enemy difficulty. Peaks and troughs in this game, not even once. This game is the Rwanda of video games, okay? It's the Rwanda of video games. The land of 1,000 hills, all right? The pacing of enemies and checkpoints coupled with the character movement speed makes for some woefully undercooked gameplay conditioning, okay? We're going to talk a bit more about gameplay conditioning as well and what that is and give some really good examples. I mean, look, guys, I'm not the game director, okay? But if I spent a heap of time and money building a dense, explorable world with 2 layers, I'd want to eliminate as much of the tedium and getting players to see as much of that world as possible. I'd make sure the gameplay is conditioning me, the player, into seeing the envisioned experience, into having the envisioned experience, really seeing the world, exploring it. What are some good examples of good gameplay conditioning? All right, what are some good examples? Let's give 2. All right, let's start with the GOAT, the greatest of all time, Bloodborne, obviously. This game arrived right as Dark Souls 1 had already cultivated a really strong following. By this time, many players had settled into a sword and board, block, dodge around. Maybe you had played the game enough to ditch the shield, start parrying, One of the best thematic and gameplay decisions of Bloodborne was to make the player get up in the face of enemies, right? Outmove them, stay aggressive. The congruence between this theme and its implementation is one of the best ever, right? The gameplay conditioning in Bloodborne, one of the greatest. The beasts, you're dealing with beasts. You're a hunter of beasts. You need to be smarter. You need to not try to overpower them with brute force and heavy armor. You need to be faster and smarter. But okay, so how did Zaki funnel players into that experience, right? What did he do? Okay, well, there's 2 systems that were introduced into the game. One was the limb breaking system. The other was the rallying system, okay? So with the limb breaking system, you're encouraged to attack limbs of enemies. Attack them over and over and over until they posture break and fall over and then go in for a critical hit. Big damage, okay? 1-2, set them up with the 1-2 and then the uppercut. You were a hunter and you knew you were a hunter of beasts and you knew the weaknesses of beasts. Second to that was rallying. Okay, this is a system that many other games have gone on to copy in one form or another. I mean, even Lords of the Fallen has a withered regain system, okay? Rallying allows players to regain lost health by striking enemies within a given time frame. For example, you get hit, then you have 3 seconds to get that health back by hitting enemies. You are drenching yourself in the special healing blood of Yharnam, right? That congruence of themes and mechanics, funneling the player into the envisioned gameplay experience, right? Doesn't happen here of Lords of the Fallen, right? They've created 2 worlds for you to explore, but they create barriers to entry and disincentivize exploring that Umbral realm as much as possible. And it's really sad. What's another good example of great gameplay conditioning? Well, let's head over to Doom Eternal. Sequel to Doom 2016, Eternal consolidated what made 2016 so fun. Constant movement and management of resources. There is literally a tooltip in Doom 2016 that says, hell devours the indolent. So stay on the move. Don't be lazy. Keep doing those circularies. Keep moving around in circles, right? The Doom reboot, though, it didn't really have any features or conditions that rewarded players for doing that besides not dying and also making it feel satisfying. So in Eternal, what did they do? What did they do to get players into that gameplay conditioning of moving, staying on the move and managing resources? Well, 7 years ago, our forefather, the Hugo Martin, brought forth the meat hook. Once fully mastered the meat hook, that bad boy would set enemies on fire, right? So it was helping you move around, but it was also giving you armor. At one point during development, they were actually considering to make the meat hook pull enemies towards you rather than pull you towards them, which was kind of a strange proposition and very antithetical to what the whole game was meant to be about, right? It would have been contradictory. The game is a push forward combat, not pull towards combat. So such a simple little change, well, on the surface seems simple, ended up being hugely influential in terms of how the game was played and how it was experienced, and really consolidated getting players to move around the space, but also reward them for doing so with the super shotgun and the armor. This brings us back to Lords. What can be done to turn this game into a significant entry in the genre? How can it go from middling and meandering to seemingly quite good? What can we do to condition players into seeing our world rather than avoiding it? Well, let's stop disincentivizing players from exploring, particularly the Umbral realm. There's a heap of ways you can do this. 1, you could reduce enemy density, health, or posture generally throughout the game, particularly in Pilgrim's Perch and the Forsaken Fen. The enemies wearing spiked helmets feel like raid bosses, and yes, I'm aware you can make gravity do the hard work for you here, but it's tedious and dissatisfying. They also have homing, like a cat in heat, and thusly make dodging the only consistent way to not get two-shot. Oh, can we talk about the rolls for a moment? They cover way too much distance. They make them feel floaty, not nearly tactile enough to be useful in the space provided to the player in Pilgrim's Perch. Secondly, let's remove about 50% of the zombie enemies in the Umbral realm, and also remove the enrage timer from it. Instead, increase the amount of vigor obtained from siphoning the husks on the wall and make that contribute to the enrage timer. Make it an active decision on the player's behalf to heighten the risk to reward ratio. This way I can choose to satisfactorily and fully explore the space, but if I want to make it more challenging and rewarding, then I can. Thirdly, the cost to enter the Umbral realm is far too high. Half health and losing the opportunity to resurrect from death makes the barrier to entry far too significant. For what it's worth at this stage, I want to point out that the Withered Regain is a fantastic idea. It makes the want to avoid damage and play efficiently to extend my tenure in the Umbral realm. More like that. More systems like that. I mean, compare this with Soul Reaver 2, a game that came out 22 years ago. In that game, you could basically come and go through the spectral and physical realms as and when you pleased. This would allow players to experiment with puzzles without entering a failure state. Lastly, just ditch the temporary checkpoint system. It's odd and inconsistent. The stretches between the fixed checkpoints are long and chock full of enemies. Every boss, even optional ones, should contain a checkpoint. The boss is meant to be the peak. The peak turns into a ping pong table, and my balls are being slapped across it when I'm carrying the boss vigor, hoping beyond all hope that there's a permanent checkpoint just around the corner down the road. But I'm out of Umbral Seeds as well, because I used that one on the flower bed after Gavarus, and then I turned a corner and there was a permanent one there anyway. You guys have something really special here with all the environments. I genuinely feel like the people behind art and environments deserve a huge round of applause. But the barrier to entry, enemy density, and time to clear, coupled with the character's movement speed, mean that you can easily run past everything, and it just makes it a chore to explore. Is Lords meant to be about exploring and seeing its world? Shouldn't the Umbral realm be a vehicle for fun with added exploration and puzzles? Then make it so that I can do that without tedium and time limits. You don't need a sequel to fix this stuff. Tweak the Umbral system, revise some enemy placements, or health and posture, and we're sweet. And while we're at it, we'll just round out this discussion with some extra points that I couldn't quite fit in. Just quality of life features, such as a sortable inventory. That would be amazing. Sortable would be really good. Being able to find items that you haven't yet inspected in a separate list, kind of like what Starfield did. Now, butterflies seen in the Axiom should really be blue, consistently blue, and not grey for consistency and contrast's sake. Especially butterflies that are related to, ladders or ramps, bridges, that kind of thing. Now, I just want to also, as an addendum to what I just said, Elden Ring made you feel like you were lost. But you were lost in the mystery of the world. You weren't lost in the sense that you didn't know where to go. This game, you are lost in the sense that you don't really know where to go. All right, so in summary, would I recommend playing this game? Everyone wants to know. That's the question on everyone's lips. Would I recommend this game? If you like Souls-likes, I would recommend it. Otherwise, and actually more generally speaking, I would probably wait for this game to be discounted or available on some sort of streaming service. I think it's a really good game, but the state that it's in right now, it presents with a lot of tedium. And those are my thoughts on Lords of the Fallen. I hope you found it useful. If you enjoyed the video, do like, comment, and subscribe. Check me out on Twitch, where I will be streaming lots of Lords of the Fallen. You can ask me more questions there. As always, keep smiling, don't do anything I wouldn't do, and bye for now.